That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about All of Us Strangers, the fifth film directed by Andrew Haigh, which premiered at the 2023 Telluride Film Festival. It is being released courtesy of Searchlight Pictures on December 22nd, 2023.
I know Andrew Haigh did the movie Weekend and the HBO series Looking.
And the follow TV film. You have seen his debut, Greek Pete.
Okay.
I'm also a huge fan of 45 Years. Lean on Pete was his last feature.
You've seen this movie twice now.
Yes.
I watched it last night. I thought it was excellent. What's your, well, let me read the premise. A screenwriter drawn back to his childhood home enters into a fledgling relationship with a mysterious neighbor as he then discovers his parents appear to be living just as they were on the day they died 30 years before.
It's important to note this is adapted from a novel by the Japanese writer Taichi Yamada. It was previously adapted by Nobuhiko Obayashi, the director who's best known for that weird gonzo cult film House, in a 1988 film called The Discarnates.
What's your pull quote?
An incredibly moving deliberation on grief, regret, and developmental trauma framed through a complex intersection of intergenerational attitudes towards gay men. It's a ghost story romance which conjures the kind of catharsis real life so rarely facilitates.
Mine is All of Us Strangers is an exquisite portrait of a man coping with love and loss. So...
Do you believe in life after love?
Life after love.
Let's share.
I know. So the main character is Adam, played by
Andrew Scott.
Okay, so he's like a 40-something-year-old man living in London in this big, beautiful high-rise building. And one day, his neighbor, Harry, played by Paul Mescal, knocks on his door and is flirting with him.
Drunk
as hell. And we're told no one else lives in this building but the two of them. And Adam rebuffs Harry, like, I don't think it's a good idea, whatever. But later, Adam is out and about, and it would appear that...
Well, we see him take public transit.
Yep. And what?
He goes to the suburbs.
Oh, right. It would appear that Adam is maybe, like, being cruised by another guy, because there's this, like, younger, attractive man sort of glaring at him from a distance. We see Adam go to like a convenience store, see the man. The man comes out, offers him a cigarette, and then says, let's go home. So if you don't know the premise, you would think, oh, they're going to go hook up. But that man is Adam's father at the age he was when he died 30 years ago, which is younger than Adam is now. And when Adam goes home with this man, and this man is played by Jamie Bell, we see that Adam's mom is also there, played by
Claire Foy.
And they're very happy to see their boy. So now Adam starts a relationship with them by visiting them a few times. Once with his mother only, once with his dad only, and then once with them together. So while that's happening, the relationship between Adam and Harry grows because Adam bumps into Harry in the elevator and says, actually, I would like to have a drink. So Harry comes over, they end up having sex, they start like really connecting, and it seems like they're building a nice little relationship. Everything culminates in Adam decides to take Harry to go see his parents. But Harry doesn't know this. And when they get to the house, no one's answering the door. So Harry's like, what are you doing? Your parents, they're dead. Why would they open the door? This is weird. They get into an argument. But while that happens, the parents do see Harry, and Harry sees them. So Adam has that one visit, the final visit with his parents.
They go on an outing
to a restaurant. But the parents tell him, like, this needs to end. We need to move on. If you keep seeing us, you're never going to move on. So they say their goodbyes. And when Adam gets home, he goes to Harry's apartment because of their argument. Harry's not at his apartment, like Adam's apartment. So Adam goes to Harry's apartment and goes in his bedroom and sees that Harry is dead to the bed and has been dead for some time. In fact, he died the night they first met
which is indicated by the bottle of Japanese liquor that he'd been drinking.
And then we find out that Harry probably died from an overdose because we see drugs and clearly he was drinking. And he says, like, I really needed someone to talk to that night. That's the end.
Yes, because while his body's in the other room and we learn that Paul Mescal is a ghost, then they have one final conversation and hold each other in bed while Frankie Goes to Hollywood plays through the end credits.
This story's crazy, and if it weren't for such amazing writing and acting, it would be a little like, I don't know about this. And there are a couple of things about the story that didn't quite work for me, but I thought this story was so beautiful. I cried many times.
Yeah, I've seen it twice, and I cried in the same spots both times. It's very well executed. Because, the level of the suspension of disbelief is such that once you are on board with him visiting his dead parents from the past 30 years, because also he's a screenwriter that has tried to start writing a script about them from this day they died, I think everything else kind of does gel for me.
I'm just going to go through my notes. So the film opens with the fire alarm in this big high-rise going off. And no one, we don't see anyone exiting the building except Adam. And this building is huge. It's like a 50-story. There has to be like thousands of units in this building, and we don't see anyone there. And because I knew the premise, I assumed that Adam was dead.
Theoretically, he could be.
But there are things within the story that would indicate he's not.
That's true, but
that is something that kind of threw me off. Like, I wish the building they lived in were occupied. Because it just seems really odd that they're in London and, like, there's no one in this building but the two of them.
No one else has moved in yet. I don't mind that.
You don't think that's odd?
Of course it's odd, but it's a movie that's full of these odd elements that maybe don't entirely need to make sense, because I think that if we're also looking at it from the story of this screenwriter, this creative person that is conjuring his parents in a corporeal way, that he's living in his own head anyway. So there's nothing that we can trust from the narrator.
Sure. So when Harry finally gets to like hang out with Adam in his apartment, he asks him, like, I'm just checking, you're queer, right? And they have a conversation about that word. I think on top of just the amazing story between the parents and then this new boyfriend, also because Harry is much older than Paul, and that's a point made. And I think these two actors are actually like 20 years apart. But yeah, I thought that was really well done, how they're kind of from two different generations, and how, because they have a discussion not only about the use of the word queer versus gay, and then we see, which we'll get to, how Adam's mom says like homosexual. But when Adam and Harry are talking, it's very clear that like being gay is not such a big part of their identity. Because it seems like Harry, his parents are cool with him being gay. He's estranged from them mainly because he didn't succeed in the way his siblings did. Whereas Adam feels very disconnected, or would have felt he thinks he would have been disconnected from his parents had they lived, because of his sexuality. Right. I think that's all really well done.
It's all it's a complexity, because it's also I think Adam is a representative of like a ghost generation, a lost generation of gay men from this period that all died of AIDS.
And I think I'm older than his character's supposed to be, but I really related to Adam, and I think the fact that his parents are dead is so powerful, because I think for a lot of gay people that age or older, your parents might as well be dead, because once they found out around that age of 12, where it's obvious that you're not just like a sweet, sensitive boy, you're a homosexual, that your parents sort of give up on you or abandon you, kick you out, what have you. So when he tells his mom, so the first visit back after the initial visit, he only sees his mom and he tells her, and it felt very familiar.
Yeah.
And everything I just thought it was so well written.
And acted. I think Claire Foy is excellent in that scene.
Yes, she's very good. And there's a moment when she asks him, like, but I'm just worried, like, you're going to be lonely.
She says it's a lonely life.
It's a lonely life. And then he kind of argues with her, like, no, things are different. And she goes, so you're not lonely? And it was like a face crack, because it's like, well, actually.
Well, because he so sharply recoils. Because you can tell that she's agitated and isn't really processing it in the way. And you have to, like, this him imagining that this is the way
Right,
the conversation happens.
But the first time I was really crying is the second, or I guess technically the third visit, when he sees his dad only. And he's telling his dad, like, yeah, I used to get bullied. Oh my God. I was just like, because the dad is more accepting than the mom. And the dad acknowledges, like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense because I used to hear you crying in your room. And Adam's like, well, if you heard me crying, why didn't you check on me? And that's when the dad says...
He goes, why didn't you tell me what was going on at school? He's like, no, you answer first. And Jamie Bell says, because I think I knew, had I known you in school, I would have been one of your bullies.
Oh my God. And then Adam starts crying and his dad has to give him a hug. And then what got me extra good is while the dad is hugging Adam, Adam sees himself in the mirror and his reflection is himself as a little boy. Like that's all he wanted was. And he tells his dad, which also made me cry, that he chooses to remember the good things. Because he says, well, because the dad acknowledges, like, yeah, I probably said a lot of mean, nasty things about gays when you were a little boy that probably hit you harder than I knew. But then Adam says, I'm choosing, like there were good times. And I feel I really related to that, like just choosing to think about my dad in that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
And of course, notably, we come to find they died in a car accident. They were both drinking on a winter night. It was Christmas, and it was after they decorated the Christmas tree,
which is Adam's favorite memory of his dad.
Yes,
because every year the dad would get excited to decorate.
And that comes about because there's a scene where Adam and Harry go out to the club and do drugs, and Adam...
Well, drugs, and then Harry goes, I think that's ketamine. Like after he has... Well, because I think that was so smart because for Adam's generation, that would have been Coke probably.
Yeah.
So Adam's snorting this shit like he thinks it's Coke, but these new kids out here doing horse tranquilizers, I thought that was really good.
What's it gonna do to me? But then Adam has this episode where he has this montage in his head of like a truncated romance between the two of them where they are staying home and bathing each other and eating, etc. And it flashes back to the club, and that segues into the memory of his parents when they died. And there's another, I think, a really kind of gut-wrenching scene
on the train.
Yes, but in part of that whole mess, he wakes up and goes into his parents' bed, but it's him as an adult wearing pajamas.
Yes, that was very good.
And his mom tells him to crawl in bed between the two of them, and that's where he has the nice.
But that scene you're talking about, it kind of is like a fever dream that turns into a nightmare, and then we see him wake up in his parents' house on Christmas, and he's wearing little boy pajamas. Oh my God, that got me too, because he's in the bed and
his mom is asking questions about what happened after we died. Like, who took care of you? Why did these parents take care of you and not mine? And then his dad rolls over and hugs him after he starts crying, and then his dad morphs into Paul Mescal, which is kind of an odd sensation because they start making out. But yeah, just very well done and poignant.
Who is what's the name of the actor playing Adam?
Andrew Scott.
He did such a good job of seeming like... There were moments, like when he was around his parents, his body language was like he was a little boy. Mm-hmm. I thought he did a fantastic job of seeming like a little boy in those moments. And then also seeming like uncomfortable around Harry. Everyone just did such a good job.
Yes, but we're not used to seeing kind of the complexities of these different perspectives, because it's not like just a queer perspective. It's that there are subtleties and experiences that have affected us, and depending on what age we are, that are more compounded.
Yeah. And
I don't know. I just don't know that I've seen anything this queer and this graceful in a really long time.
You already mentioned it, but the ending is Harry and Adam in bed, and Adam sort of like consoling Harry because now he realizes he's dead. And then the shot sort of pans out into the two of them in bed, and it ends up looking like a star in the sky. Mm-hmm. And then we get a constellation, and then we get that Frankie Goes to Hollywood song. And in the video for that song, it looks like a constellation. I thought that was beautiful.
Oh, the sound! Oh, I love that they're singing Pet Shop Boys. You were always on my mind.
The parents at Christmas, yeah. What would you give this movie?
I would give the score. The composer and the cinematographer both worked on the movie Living recently, which I find very interesting. But Emily Lebanese Farouche is the composer. I like the score, and Jamie Ramsey, who also shot a really interesting Alice Krige thriller called She Will. I loved the look of it, but I would give it 4 out of 5.
I would give it 4 out of 5 as well. Hit the thanks button, listen to our podcast. Bye.